Hello, everybody, and welcome to your favorite show. It's been off for a while, but folks, we're here. I've been dealing with some sickness, and we had some basketball stuff going on with the Southern Conference, but we are back and on the air. We're talking about your favorite show every Monday night, Rasslin and Racin, brought to you by Ardensburger Grill, Central South Carolina, Beef and Rib in Westminster, South Carolina, Upstate Physical Therapy. Make sure you go by and see David and Jimmy. Also, Pepsi Cola, Hyundai of Anderson. Oh, make sure you go to Hyundai of Anderson. I bought my truck there and got a great deal. You can go there and make sure you say HOA 24 and they will give you a good deal. Herschel and the team down there are awesome. All right, folks, let's bring him on. I know he's got so much that has happened between now and then. We've had pay-per-views. We've had great shows. We've had some bad shows on both sides. But let's bring him in, the man of the hour, Mr. Ref Brandon. How's it going, Ref?
Amazing. Fantastic. How you doing?
Doing great, doing great. Glad to have you back in the fold, and great to be talking with you. And Ref, let's catch up on you. How have you done any? I know we've been off for about a month, so I'm sure you've had some wrestling shows. Tell us a little bit about what you did this past weekend, maybe, and then what's coming up in the future.
I actually took this past weekend off because the last two previous Saturdays I was in Easton Ollie, Georgia at 244 Livestock Road, which is where SWA normally runs. And the second Saturday of the month was the typical SWA show. But then on the following Saturday, which was the third Saturday of the month, two promotions out of South Carolina called CMW and PWF used our building in Easton Ollie to run their show. So we had some TV tapings for CMW and PWF in Easton Ollie, Georgia. And now this upcoming Saturday, I've got some TV tapings for CMW and PWF, and we're going to be in Greenville, South Carolina at the West Greenville Community Center.
Okay.
And I'll be there Saturday night. The doors are going to open at 6. We're going to start the show at 7, and we're going to have a TV taping so you can come out, have some great, phenomenal food. They have the best food selection I've ever seen in an independent wrestling show, and you can see all your favorite stars. You can see the Alpha Boss, you can see me, and you can be on TV all on the same night.
Wow, there you go, folks. And Greenville, South Carolina. So, folks, me and Brandon haven't been that close in a wrestling show, and you never know when Rasslin and Racin will show up together and put together something, because I heard the masked fanboy is still around somewhere, Brandon, and he swears up and down he's going to catch you one day.
I think he's too old and slow myself.
I'll make sure to run that by to him, okay?
Oh, okay.
All right, well, Brandon, let's get to NASCAR this weekend. Man, I tell you what, Kyle Larson was able to get the win in the final laps, passing Wallace and also William Byron. And what was your thoughts on this race? No, it wasn't William Byron. It was the 48 car. Oh, man.
Yeah, Kyle Larson tried to pull off the trifecta, and it's something that has only been done twice in NASCAR history, and both times it was done by Kyle Busch. He won Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup at Bristol in 2010 and 2017. Well, this weekend, Kyle Larson raced all three, and he won the truck race Friday night, and he was dominating the Xfinity race on Saturday, and a caution came out with 8 laps to go, and then they restarted with 2 laps to go. Justin Allgaier passed him, and Allgaier won, and then Kyle Larson won yesterday. So he won 2 of the 3, but it was funny that the caution comes out Saturday to keep him from winning. He would have won Saturday easily. And then yesterday, he wasn't leading. It looked like Alex Bowman had the race won.
Bowman, yeah.
And then hit the wall there towards the end and was able to pass Alex Bowman. Larson was because of that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have won Sunday. So he had it taken Saturday, and then he got it back on a lucky break Sunday. But it was funny to see somebody besides a B win a race, because we've had Bell and we had Byron, and we had Barry. So it's been all B's this year until yesterday. It looked like that was going to continue with Bowman getting the win. But so far this year, the NASCAR TV ratings are up by about an average of 1.5 million viewers per week. I have not seen what yesterday brought in yet, but that's as of last week. So it's good to see NASCAR finally growing. I think people are finally seeing how much talent they have in NASCAR. The only thing that's always held NASCAR back, according to people, is that NASCAR no longer has personality. Because back in the day, you always had brash drivers, and nowadays they don't, except for Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has always had personality, but everybody always hated him because of that.
Chastain now, Ross Chastain's got a lot of beef with a lot of people.
But now that Kyle Busch is no longer dominating, people start to see how much personality Kyle Busch has. Just like not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before that, Kyle Busch actually was up in the booth for the Xfinity race. He's a natural on the microphone, and it was funny that people got to see Kyle Busch actually has plenty of humor and personality. But, you know, the most popular driver in NASCAR is Chase Elliott, and he has the attitude of a brick wall. I mean, he has no personality at all, just none. So when your most popular driver has no personality, it kind of hurts the sport. But you've got a lot of young up-and-coming guys now like Carson Hocevar and Noah Gragson that are full of personality. So if they can ever start winning, it'll help the sport, you know, tremendously. But to me, it shouldn't affect it because, you know, the fact you have no personality doesn't make you a good or bad race car driver. You just suck to talk to. But, you know, not everybody has that kind of, you know, personality. But I'm just glad to see that the TV ratings are finally starting to come back around and people are starting to watch NASCAR again. And I love to see that. And I think it's going to continue to grow because they're going to Mexico this year. And I know a lot of the old NASCAR fans say, stick to your roots, And I understand that. I get that. But at the same time, how are you going to grow your sport if you don't go to new places? You can't go to the same place all the time and expect to grow. It's not going to happen. The only way you're going to continue to grow is to go to new racetracks, go to new cities, go to new states, go to new countries. So to me, even though it's different, it helps the sport. Anything that helps the sport grow, I'm totally fine with. And, you know, yesterday we seen Darrell Wallace finish third. Chase Briscoe was fourth. Denny Hamlin was fifth. We had Chris Buescher sixth. A.J. Allmendinger got his second straight top 10 coming home seventh. And then you had Reddick. Ryan Preece finishes top 10 again in ninth. And then you had Justin Haley round out the top 10. But, you know, Ryan Preece just signed with Roush Fenway Keselowski, and Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher are both outrunning Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski is terrible. I don't know what in the world has happened, but, you know, he left Penske and went to that 6 car, and he ain't done diddly squat.
Well, I tell you what, I kind of like seeing a bunch of different names up there every week. It's not always the same top 10. It's a mixture. You know what I'm saying? It really makes the sport better because instead of everybody coming to the race, you know, oh, it's always just 10 guys. Now it's 20 guys that could win the race. It's not.
That's what I've liked the last couple of years because even back when I started watching NASCAR in the mid-'90s, you know, you had 43 drivers back then. But you generally, for the most part, had about 10 guys every week, and you knew one of those 10 guys was going to win that race.
And it was always Jimmy Johnson of all of them.
Yeah, and then when Jimmy Johnson come along, you had about 6 or 7 guys that were going to win a race. Now there's probably 20 guys any weekend that I can look at and say, he can win. He might win. He's got a shot. And 25 years ago, it wasn't like that. So to me, having a variety of winners and a variety of top 5, top 10 drivers, that there's no way that hurts the sport. It has to help.
Yep. Now they are talking again about changing the point system and trying to go back to some of what they used to do in the old days where wins mattered more. And I do mean, I think this is a better idea. I know they still matter, but to have them matter in such a way, I think it would actually help the sport to make it worth that. And also, a lot more points for leading the most laps.
Yeah, a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up, Jay, because the last podcast we did, we talked about that because I was telling you that night that they were talking about changing points, and I was asking you, would you be in favor of it, and how did you see it possibly changing? Because they've talked about it, for years, because you still had the old NASCAR fans that say, there shouldn't be a playoff. It should just be you start in February and you keep all the points all the way until you get to November and the champion's a champion. And I get that, but at the same time, you don't want all your NASCAR fans, because there are some NASCAR fans that don't like football and they're going to watch NASCAR every week. But there are also some that like both. And the ones that like both, if September comes around and your champion's already decided, they're not going to watch the last 5 or 6 races, because what's the point?
Yeah.
Who wins the race doesn't matter. The champion's already determined. So you have to keep the ones that are wishy-washy and might go back and forth watching NASCAR. The only way you're going to do that is to have the playoffs. That way there's no champion decided yet.
Yeah.
But I can see giving the winner, more points, but how many more points do you give the winner?
Yeah.
Because it used to be you got, I think, 75 points winning. But now you only get like 4 or 5 more than the next driver.
And I think that's wrong. I think if you're winning, if you are a good enough driver that you pass everybody, you do what you got to do to win the race, I think that it should be at least 20 points more than the other drivers.
Now, what they could do, I don't know if they will, because honestly, watching it, even to me, just as an outsider watching NASCAR, to me, having the stage racing is better, because you've got drivers now that want to finish top 10 each stage to get extra points, because you get points for top 10s in each stage. But what you could do is get rid of the stage racing and go back to the way it used to be and just have one race. And then that way, instead of getting stage points, you'll get more points at the end of the race. So you still might get the same amount of points overall, but instead of getting 4 or 5 more points for winning, you'll get 25 more points for winning, because instead of 10 stage points, those 10 points will go towards you getting the overall win.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that's been our NASCAR brought to you by Ardensburg Grill in Central South Carolina. Now, Brandon, I'm going to throw this on you, so I'm going to give you time to get your list up. I'm kind of putting this in my head. I've been thinking about it while we've been talking. Folks, we're going to pro wrestling, and we're going to first off start off with our beef and rib top 5 performers of the month. And this is going to be for last month coming in. So since we haven't been on in a month, we're going to give you who we think is our top 5 performers, WWE, AEW, TNA. Now, we're not doing 5 for each. We're just doing our 5 that we think across the board. Okay, Brandon?
All
right, I'm going to start us off. My number 5 is none other than Cody Rhodes. I don't have him as my top 4. He's had a good month, but I haven't been overly impressed with Cody. And his 2 things with John Cena were just kind of meshed, but just because he is the WWE World Champion, I'm giving Cody Rhodes my number 5. Number 4, let me have Gunther. That's right, Gunther. Him and Jey Uso have had a great month of back and forth. Gunther's had some great run-ins on him, put him to sleep several times. So give me Gunther in my number 4 mark. Number 3, give me MJF. That's right, Maxwell Jacob Freeman. I think anytime he gets on the mic, it's just unreal. He's had some great matches over this past month. So give me MJF at number 3. Number 2, give me Jey Uso. That's right, yeet. We're going to yeet all the time. Jey Uso, who I picked to win at WrestleMania over Gunther. And I'm sure Brandon's going to give me an earful for that one, that he doesn't deserve it. But I think he does. I think he is the future of that world title. I think because of them having Cody Rhodes at the same size, because some people say, well, he's not big enough. He's been able to do a lot of things. I think they're going to let him have this, and I think it's going to lead to him and Roman Reigns eventually in a match where that's when he'll lose it. But anyway, give me Jey Uso at number 2. And number 1, Kenny Omega. That's right. Give me Kenny Omega, the Intercontinental. Oh, excuse me. I forgot exactly how that's called. It's the uh, inter. No, it's not the Intercontinental. It's the Continental title. The Omega won this past month. Give me Kenny Omega as my number one. All right, Brandon, give me your top five.
Well, number five is probably going to surprise a lot of people, especially if you haven't seen this. And the guy hasn't done anything at all. But to me, it's so inspirational. I've got to rank it, and that is Chris Bay. Chris Bay had his neck broke back in October. You really can't find a lot of videos on how it happened, so I can't really tell you exactly how, but it was in a tag team match with the Hardy Boys for TNA. He got his neck broke in October, and over the weekend he actually walked to the ring. So you're talking about a guy that just broke his neck about 5.5 months ago, and now he's walking to the ring. I'm not sure the guy will ever wrestle again, but just the fact that he got his neck broke 5 months ago and now the man's already walking, that's inspirational.
Yep. I can agree with you.
So I'll put Chris Bay at number five just for the fact he can walk again. Already the man's determined. And whenever he does, if he does wrestle again, you're talking about an ovation. Wherever it's at, that place is going to go absolutely insane.
Exactly. And they should.
And number four, for me, I'll go with Cody Rhodes. It's nothing that Cody's done wrong. It's just, it seems like they're kind of building up to the WrestleMania match, but until WrestleMania, he's just kind of being a filler guy.
Yeah.
So it's not anything he's done wrong. It's just they're not doing anything
right
with him right now.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of he's just there and just in the way. And number three for me is Kevin Owens. I love this the post Kevin Owens makes, the promos Kevin Owens does. Everything about Kevin Owens to me is just awesome. I love Kevin Owens. And number two for me is Jey Uso, and number one is Kenny Omega.
All right, we're right there at 1 and 2 for sure. I think that both of those guys in the last month since we've been gone have done a lot and had great things. They're really building their storylines, and just great to see Omega back at 100% again. And like you said, like we were agreeing on, Jey Uso, he is going to be a future player in the WWE. They're building him up like that. I'm glad they got him out of the tag team thing, and he lost his matches like they wanted him to, and he never fussed about it. Brandon, and that's something that a lot of guys don't like. They don't like to lose. They always want to win everything. And Jey took a lot of losses for someone that was being called the main event, and I think now they're rewarding him for that.
Yeah, I do too. And let me ask you this, and see if you heard this. There's two different things that I've heard. One I heard just over the weekend, and one I heard a few weeks back, but you and I have not done a show since then. The first thing I heard was that Shane McMahon, when he was in AEW, he actually wanted to pretty much not run the company, but just help Tony Khan book the company, and that Tony Khan basically ghosted him, which would make sense because why would Shane just all of a sudden be on camera and then all of a sudden he's gone with no mention ever again? And I've heard so many stories that Tony Khan is such a nice guy that he can't tell somebody no. So I guess in Tony Khan's mind, it's better to ghost a guy than to say no. And it does make sense. I want to see if you had heard that, and that's where Shane went to, because Tony just disappeared, wouldn't talk to him no more. And the other thing I heard over the weekend was that Shane is fixing to start his own wrestling company. And I read a whole full-length article about it, and the article made it seem like it was legit, but it didn't say what the name of the company would be, but that Shane wants to keep the McMahon name in wrestling now that Vince is out of it, and they say that Shane is nothing like his daddy at all. And that's the reason why Vince and Shane never got along, because Vince wanted Shane to be like him, and Shane refused to be that way. So people actually love Shane and would work for Shane. So it'll be interesting to see if that's true, and if it is true, how many guys will you see from other companies leave that company to go work for Shane because he's a McMahon, because he's well known, because you know that he knows the wrestling business. So if Shane starts one, it's going to be successful.
You know, you hear a lot of different things, and I've got a lot of friends that are in the wrestling business, and that's where I get a lot of my information from. And some is good and some is crazy. So let me just put it this way: Tony Khan didn't go Shane McMahon. There was a lot. What they were trying to do got put out on the internet so much that it kind of took away from what they were supposed to be doing or what they wanted to do. So there was a lot of change in it. Don't be surprised if Shane McMahon becomes the new owner of ROH. I don't mean as a 100% owner, but I do mean as in ROH will be run by Shane in a way that Tony Khan will let him run the ball with that, with the idea that Shane can get a TV deal just for ROH. Now, I'm just telling what I've heard, and there's no guarantees to it, but it kind of makes sense.
Well, somebody needs to do something with it because I still don't understand the whole point of Tony Khan buying it, because he's had it for over at least a year by now, and has done nothing with it. Ain't got it on TV yet. They don't have their own shows yet. So
he wanted the library. He wanted the library.
The whole thing right now makes no sense because Ring of Honor could be so successful, and he uses AEW wrestlers instead of Ring of Honor wrestlers, so none of it makes any sense at all to me.
Yeah.
So I wish somebody would buy it.
Well, I don't think it's going to be that he's going to sell it to Shane unless it's in storyline, but I would see Shane running it into a point where they consider him the owner. Now, he might have a small stake in it. I know he would be the GM per se. So there's just a lot that could be going on with it. Just like when Vince bought WCW, he didn't buy it to run the company. He bought it because he wanted the library. He wanted that video library because, they was fixing to start WWE, the WWE app at the time. And they was trying to get plenty of, videotape for it because, WCW owned AWA's videotape. They owned the UWF, World Class. They owned all that. So Khan basically bought it for the video library. So if any guys that were in the WWE came to the AEW, there would be some kind of video package they could use. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different things you can do with that. And AEW's still looking at getting their own app, but right now they're also trying to build up with Max, and therefore that's something that was a selling point, is that we got so many hours of videotape that you could do it just like Peacock does, where you can go back and watch the old WCW, World Class, AEW, or excuse me, AWA. So it's kind of like that.
Well, I wish somebody would do something with it. I really do. I missed back when Ring of Honor was doing great stuff with great talent, their own great talent.
Yeah. This past couple weeks in AEW, I thought it was decent shows. The only thing I still don't understand is the whole Death Riders, Adam Copeland, how they ended the pay-per-view with Christian cashing in and didn't even win it. And then now they've broken up his group, and now I think they're trying to set up Copeland and Christian to get back together again to take on the Death Riders. It seems like that's what they're doing because Christian wasn't with his group that helped the Death Riders the other week. What's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on that particular storyline, if that's the way they're going?
I think you're actually right on that. I believe that's where they're going. But, the more and more articles I read about AEW, what you just brought up is, the main reason that the fans that don't watch it. As far as just in-ring talent, I've told you this since our podcast started. AEW has the best talent, top to bottom, in the world. There's no doubt about that. But it's almost to the point to where you're watching wrestling matches that have no plot, no moral, no story. It's just matches thrown together. Because every time they have a great storyline, it just stops for no reason, and it never gets brought up again. And it's hard to get behind when you don't know who's fighting who, why are they fighting. But, the matches are great. You just wish there was more of a reason for you to understand why they're happening. There's no doubt they have the talent, but they just continuously start and stop storylines, and they have a guy for a while and they stop using the guy for a while. You know, they just had 5 or 6 guys that all left the company, and they left the company because they just were consistently not being used. And it's so hard when you have that much talent to use everybody. So I still don't understand why you want to sign that many guys to begin with, knowing there's no possible way you can use that many guys. It's just not possible. You have to have a TV show 7 nights a week to do that. But then the guys you do have, you don't use consistently, and I don't understand it at all. If Tony Khan would just start storylines and keep them going, they've got so much of a chance to be so successful, but he just will not do it. It's like he starts something and decides, I don't like that, and then just all of a sudden just stops.
Yeah, there's a lot of people calling for Samoa Joe to be world champion again because he was so dominant. I think that the Joe Hook and I forgot the Chinese wrestler that's with them. Anyway, so is it Sabata?
Yeah.
I think those 3 could be a formidable fight for the Death Riders. I mean, if you put Joe and Mox in the ring, I mean, I think that would be a great main event. Honestly, I think I could get into that, and you could have Hook and Sabata outside, and then you would have, you know, Pac and Castagnoli out on the outside. I think, you know, however you want to do it, I think Joe, I think would be a great. Now I know that's probably not the way they want to go. I think the way that I think they're moving them towards the ROH or one of the other titles, the Continental Classic title. So it's going to be interesting in that. Now let's go to WWE. Of course, we're on the road to WrestleMania. We've talked a little bit about Jey Uso and Gunther. I think Brandon's already made it clear he's got. Didn't you say you got Gunther still winning at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
And I got Jey Uso winning. I think it's time to make him the main event because why call him main event if he's not going to be a main event superstar? It's just makes no sense. And I think that's where Vince would go wrong. And I think Hunter's changing. He's going to make Jey Uso a main eventer by putting the world title on him. Now, how long he has it, I don't know. I think that SummerSlam, you know, he gets a win and then probably loses it before the end of the year. I know you got TLC, Bad Blood. There's several other things that they do. Was it also the one over in Saudi Arabia? Was it the King? Not the King. Yeah, King of the Ring is at the end of the year now, isn't it? Or I forgot the name of that one that they do at the end of the year. But anyway, they got several different ones that happen now between now and then, and I think he could lose it with them. But I mean, I think they need to put the title on him, make him a world champion, which makes his name main event Jey Uso mean something, and put him in a feud with a Cody Rhodes, a Roman Reigns, or back with Gunther again. I mean, I think him and Gunther are going to give us an A+ match at WrestleMania.
And see, that's the main reason why I don't see him winning it because, you know, I've already mentioned that, you know, I don't feel like Jey Uso's a long-term champion. And to build him up and to make him win the belt at WrestleMania and then turn around and lose it, to me, that's pointless. That was like the time they gave Zack Ryder the IC belt on WrestleMania night and the Raw next night he loses it. What good does that do? To me, it doesn't make Jey Uso look great to win the belt and then lose it again 2 months later. And I just don't see Jey Uso being a long-term champion. I just don't.
Okay, well, you ready for me to give you what I've been told? All right, Jey Uso beats Gunther at WrestleMania. At the same WrestleMania, Penta wins the Intercontinental title from you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. When that happens, Gunther gets his rematch at SummerSlam. Well, actually, the next pay-per-view before SummerSlam, really. He does not win it. We go to SummerSlam, and that's where Jey Uso fights, God, I can't remember his name, Rick Steiner's son.
Braun Breaker.
Braun Breaker. He fights Braun Breaker, and that feud gets us to the end of the year where Braun Breaker, I think, becomes the next world champion. I think he's one of those big guys. They're building him up. They're making him beat a bunch of guys. I mean, he's taking on 2 and 3 guys at a time and just destroying them. I think Braun Breaker is that next guy that could be the one to take Jey Uso or Roman Reigns, but I think it'd be Braun Breaker just because of the way they're building storylines. And I think Uso versus Braun Breaker would be a great main event. I mean, I don't know about your opinion on that. What do you think about that main event? And I'll finish what I'm going to say after that.
I like Braun Breaker. I think Braun Breaker has huge potential. I just don't know if he's ready to be world champion yet. And if you push somebody too soon, it destroys their career because they've got too much weight on their shoulders already. And I just don't know if Braun is quite ready yet. But I do think when the time comes, I think he'll be a phenomenal champion. I just don't know if that time is here. Yeah, that might be, but I don't think it is.
Well, he's been in the NXT World Champion. He's held the smaller titles, the U.S. and now the Intercontinental title. I think it's time. I really do. Unless they put him in a tag, which what I hear it's not what they want to do with him, because there was a thought about putting him and Randy Orton together. And I just don't see that happening. I don't think Orton's into tag teaming anymore. But anyway, I've heard those things, and also I heard they would send him to TNA to take the TNA title. I don't see that either. That makes no sense to send him backwards. So I would, me personally, I'm not bashing TNA folks, but me personally, I think it's Braun Breaker. But then Gunther would take on John Cena. That's right, folks. Gunther versus Cena. Cena takes the title from Cody. But Cody ends up going into a war with The Rock. They're going to build up Rock and Cody, I think, for SummerSlam because Cena's going to hold the title. Folks, he's going to win it between now and the end of the year. Why not put it at WrestleMania, give him time to hold it a little while and lose it? And who better to lose it to than a guy that fans hate right now but could love later? That's right, Gunther. They've slowly been trying to make him a good guy. If you've noticed every pay-per-view, especially anything when he lost to Cody and all, he had a good guy sense. He congratulated Cody. He didn't bash him. He was like, you did it. You did that. I think they're trying to slowly work him into a face to see if they can keep him there. What's your thoughts on that?
I think they need to, because I think the fact that Gunther's he's a phenomenal in-ring worker.
Yeah.
But he's not the best promo guy. So it's hard to really hate him because he's not really great at making you hate him.
Mm-hmm.
And his wrestling ability is more like a good guy would wrestle. So to me, it makes more sense for him to be a babyface. So they need to somehow, get him there.
Yeah. I think that, and this would be a good opportunity because Cena is hated by everybody right now. And I think Cena would give Gunther a great wrestling match. You know what I'm saying? I think that would propel Gunther because then if Gunther beats Cena and gets the WWE title, that would cement him as a major player.
Well, I can see them feuding and it would be a great match, but I think it'll be Gunther's the world champion. Cena trying to get the belt from him because I just don't see Cena beat Cody Rhodes.
Well, hey, that's why we're here, folks. Me and Ref love to just give our opinions and
because I think they're trying to build Cody Rhodes up as the supreme good guy, the supreme babyface that all the fans love. And somehow, some way, WrestleMania with Cody versus Cena, The Rock is going to be involved. The Rock's going to be there. So basically, if Cody Rhodes wins, he's beating John Cena and The Rock. That gives the people more reason to get behind Cody because he's beating not just one all-time great, but two at WrestleMania. And also, I feel like Charlotte Flair has gotten so close to Rick's record that if they let somebody break Rick's record, it's going to be his daughter. That way, a Flair breaks the record of a Flair. And I think Charlotte's so close, she'll be the one to break it. And I don't see no reason at all for Cena to break the record and then turn around and get passed in a year or so. So I think Charlotte gets that record.
Well, I think Charlotte's going to pass Cena regardless if he wins this year or not because she's got maybe 2 or 3 more years left in her, based on what I hear. She's wanting to stay in 2 more years. But then I also heard a rumor that she's going to finish out her WWE contract and leave. So, that means there's only 2 other spots for her: TNA, and which is a WWE company per se anymore, and then also AEW. So I think she might want to do the AEW route. And Tony Khan, if he were to get a Charlotte Flair, he would put a title on her as soon as she walked in the door.
And there really truly ain't right now a reason to sign an actual contract with TNA, because they're pretty much now working with WWE, and WWE is going to pay you way more than TNA could ever think about paying you.
Yep.
So really, I don't right now, as long as this deal's going on, I don't see a reason why you would sign with TNA. Now, if you're under contract, you're under contract. But if you're not and you're a free agent, you might as well either go somewhere else or re-sign WWE, because signing with TNA, you're basically WWE with less money. I mean, that makes 0 sense.
Yeah. And a lot of the stars there are doing so much for WWE as far as trying to help with the crossover, like the Hardys and other ones, because Matt and Jeff's already said that they're as soon as their TNA contract's up, which they signed for another year, which kind of made no sense because all they talked about was going back to WWE. But they said that after their TNA contract's over, they're going to sign 1 more year, and that's going to be in WWE and finish it out. So we know something big's going to happen with them starting next year. But what's your thought on the women's divisions in both WWE and AEW? I'm a lot in a better place. I'm in a better place with AEW lately. Monet is still not getting the fan support, whether to love or hate her. It's like they hate her, but they don't want to say it, if that makes sense. And she's just not pulling her weight. I mean, for someone that had 4 titles, they've got to take one of those titles off of her. I think that Statlander or the returning Britt Baker, there's going to be 3 stars that need to get in there. Jamie Hayter, that need to get in there and create even more. I mean, I love what they're doing right now with Tony Storm and I forgot the girl that they're going to fight next week. We got a pay-per-view next week. I almost forgot about that. I'm sure you're going to do it on your show, which you folks can find on YouTube every single day. Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube. Make sure you go and subscribe, like, comment. He's got top 10s on Wednesday that don't always have to do with wrestling. He talks football, basketball, anything that's on his mind. You can go to his show and see it each and every day, folks. Support Ref Brandon. You'll have fun. You'll get a kick out of it. And okay, I had someone. Okay, what's this? Sorry, Brandon. Someone's asking me to ask you something. Hold on a second.
Oh, okay. Well, let me say this while you read that.
All right, go ahead.
As far as the women's division goes, WWE is using way more of their women, but for the most part, they're not doing anything with the exception of the top 4 or 5. The rest of them are just kind of there. And AEW, they're just consistently using the same ones over and over and over and over again. I mean, what was her name? Hikaru Shida? She ain't even been seen since 10 years ago, and she's there, and Nyla Rose is still there, and they still have so many that they're just not using. I mean, they're using like Tony Storm, and they're using Mercedes Moné, and they're using Mariah May consistently, but then the rest of them you just don't even see.
Thunder Rosa.
So WWE is using way more of their women, but they're just putting them out there with no reasoning behind it. And AEW is only using 4 or 5, but they're using those 4 or 5 greatly, and the rest of them you never see. So to me, right now, neither roster is really using the women's roster the way they could or should.
Yeah. All right.
And Alexa Bliss came back, and she was in the chamber, and then what happened? She just disappeared again.
Yep. All right. The person asked me your thoughts on the person that I was trying to make, Megan Bain, who's going to be taking on Tony Storm
Oh yeah,
this
Megan
weekend. They wanted to know your thoughts on Megan Bain, and did she make the right choice but going to AEW?
Yeah, I do. I think she did because I don't think she's made enough name for herself to be signed by WWE as of yet, unless she's going to be NXT, and she'd probably make more money in AEW than she would NXT. So, as of right now, at this current time, I'd say she made the right decision going to AEW. But now, in a couple of years, she needs to go to WWE if she's as good as they think she's going to be. But as of right now, yeah, AEW is where she should be.
All right, next question I got for you. It's been rumored MJF's going to start a group of his own and not join the Hurt Foundation. If you could put 4 guys and maybe a lady in a group with MJF, knowing his style, who would they be and why?
I would definitely do, for one, I would do Samoa Joe.
Okay.
And then my female would be Jamie Hayter. I think Jamie Hayter's a great wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
And, I've told you before, I've kind of soured on MJF. At one time, I thought he was the next big thing in wrestling. And then ever since he won the world title, I went sour. I don't know how. All of a sudden, his promos that were so good just aren't as great anymore. And then all of his promos now are about going WWE, when it's obvious by now he's not going there. So his promos have just gotten old. So I've gone very sour on him. And at one time, I was a huge MJF fan. But now I don't like him at all. So he needs help. He needs help big time. So I give him Samoa Joe, and I give him Jamie Hayter, and then I would give him the guys we talked about earlier, Copeland and Christian Cage.
Wow.
That'd be a great faction.
Wow. You know, the female I would pick is the one that came in with Mercedes Moné as her bodyguard, was in NWA and TNA. I forget her name. She was the muscle-bound girl. Was it Caroline or Carl? God, I can't remember her name. Do you know who I'm talking about, though?
Yeah, but it's been so long I forgot her name.
Yeah, Carmine or anyway, I would pick her. I would have her as the female. The tag team, you know what? Give me the what's the Outrunners?
Yeah.
I think the Outrunners would, because of the way they act, I think them and MJF, because with his brashness, and you get them a little bit brasher, I think those two would be a great thing. And then you got to have a big guy, and I think Samoa Joe would end up tearing MJF in half. Give me Big Bill. I think Big Bill leaves the learning tree and becomes a part of MJF's stable. I mean, he already did stuff for MJF on several occasions.
That's why I put Samoa Joe there, because all factions break up eventually.
Yeah.
And when they break up, I'd love to see Samoa Joe just beat the crap out of MJF, just destroy him.
Yep, that'd be good. Or say if Big Bill was with them and they turned on him, he brings in Enzo Amore, and then we have the guys back together, but just give them different names. Well, they used already Big Bill, but give Enzo Amore his. I forgot the name he's using now. But put Amore and Kaz back together. I think that'd be kind of wild. Have them go against the Outrunners and even go after a world tag title thing. But for sure, I think Cage and Copeland would be a good group, with them. But they're at the point now where they're either going to be the leader or they're going to be together.
Yeah, they're both 51 now, so they really need to be in some kind of a faction where they ain't got to do a lot of wrestling, because their wrestling time is about up.
Yeah, and I think that's why we might see them back together to put a tag title on them to help the tag team division in AEW. Now, the tag team division actually is really good in AEW, but if you put Copeland and Christian in there, I think they win the titles quickly, whether it be ROH or AEW. I'd put a title on them. But folks, we've had a great night. Wow, 45 minutes, Ref. We're going on a record here. We've talked a lot of good stuff. Thanks for the two people that texted me and was telling me what they wanted to ask Ref. But folks, we want to thank you for joining us this week. Of course, we were brought by Arden's Burger Grill in Central South Carolina. Make sure you go by and see Donnie and Paul. That's right, Donnie and Paul, his son, run Arden's Burger Grill. That's open from Wednesday through Saturday only. That's Wednesday through Saturday only. Make sure you go by there and try the Paladin Burger, the double dip wings, you name it. Also, Beef and Rib in Westminster, South Carolina. They're open on Sundays from 11 o'clock or could be 10:30. I think sometimes she opens it at 10:30, just depending. But we'll just say 11 o'clock until they sell out, and that's for the meat and threes. Also, they're open from Tuesday through Saturday from 11 o'clock until 8 o'clock. Make sure you go by there. I'm there 3 days a week, folks. Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm there in the mornings. Come by and see me. Be glad to talk with you about Rasslin, Racin, and maybe even get a picture, without Ref Brandon, the good-looking one, I don't know if people want a picture. So anyway, we appreciate them. We thank Upstate Physical Therapy. We thank Pepsi Cola. We thank all of our sponsors, Greenville Sports Media, who helps us out with this show. We want to thank Justin and the guys over at A Whole Pack of Wolves. Also want to thank JD and Mark, my guys over there at Greenville Sports Media. Anyway, this has been Rasslin and Racin. And Ref Brandon, tell them where they can find you each and every day and where you're going to be at this weekend.
On YouTube, Ref Brandon and the Todd family. I talk college football, college basketball, the NBA, Major League Baseball, a little college baseball, NASCAR, wrestling, and then my top 10 countdowns are sometimes not even about sports or wrestling in any kind of fashion. So sometimes that's the one day of the week where my videos are not about sports in any kind of way. Some are, but some aren't. And then this weekend I'll be at the West Greenville Community Center in Greenville, South Carolina for CMW and PWF television tapings. And for those that may be wondering, CMW stands for Carolina Main Event Wrestling, and PWF stands for Palmetto Wrestling Federation. Doors open at 6 o'clock, and bell time will be 7 o'clock Saturday night.
All right, folks, there you heard it. Make sure you go out and support local professional wrestling. These guys are donating their time a lot of times to give you the entertainment. Go by, support the group. Let's show them that, Greenville, South Carolina can sell the building out. And make sure you go by and heckle Ref Brandon all you can. The guy cannot see when he's in a match. I've been there to his matches. He's looking one way when something else has happened the other way. Heckle him. Heckle, Ref Brandon. And maybe the Master Fanboy will show up this coming Saturday night. I'm hoping so. Wait a second. I'm getting a call. Ref, Master Fanboy done heard what you've been talking. He said he just might show up this coming Saturday night.
Well, I hope he does.
Oh, there you go, folks. You might actually get to see the Master Fanboy show up with Ref Brandon. Of course, Master Fanboy usually has a baseball bat. I don't know if they'll let him bring that in the building. Ref will probably throw him out.
Yeah, I'll throw him
out. All right, folks. We appreciate you for joining us here on Rasslin and Racing for the GreenvilleSportsMedia.com. And Jay Jacobs, Justin Grice, and everybody here, Ref Brandon, thanks for joining us.